Hello, fourth graders. This is Miss Frost here with another science lesson for you guys this week. This week we're going to be focusing on reviewing the water cycle. So your learning objective is I can illustrate and describe the process of the water cycle. I want you to start thinking about where you see water in our earth. I know that I see water in lakes and oceans and rivers. I also see water when it's raining and coming from the sky. And I also see water inside coming out of our faucets and out of our different appliances in our homes. Water really is everywhere, and there's never any new water created. The water that's coming out of your faucet or coming down from the sky when it's raining or something that you see in a lake or an ocean is water that's been around for millions and millions of years. Because of the water cycle, that same little droplet of water is just moving to different locations around the earth. So let's think about what's happening during the water cycle. On your screen, I put a body of water like a lake or a river or a stream. And now I've added a sun. The sun is doing something very important with the lake. When I think of the sun, I think of heat and light. Well, that heat and light is coming down towards the water, and it's going to heat up the water in my lake. So the sun's rays are coming down towards the earth, and they're going to start heating up the water. Now, since the sun has heated up the water and the water is now hotter, it becomes water vapor, which is a gas. And that water vapor is going to go up into the air. So the water is turned into a gas and is rising up. This process is called evaporation. Now the water vapor is getting higher and higher up in the sky. And the higher the water vapor gets, the cooler the air around it is. Because it's no longer so hot, this water vapor, which was a gas, is going to turn back into little water droplets, or a liquid. So the higher up in the sky it gets, now it's turning into water droplets. Those water droplets are going to come together with some different gases and form clouds. So as the water vapor comes up, it's going to turn back into a liquid, and this process is called condensation. Now, as more and more water vapor is coming up into our cloud, the cloud is getting heavier and heavier and bigger because there's more and more liquid inside of it. When it gets too heavy, that water is going to come down, back down to the earth. Now, this can happen in rain. It could be snow, it could be hail. There's quite a few different ways that water can come down. Well, when water comes out of the cloud and goes back down to the ground, we call this precipitation. Now, this water that's coming down from the clouds is collecting back into our lake. It can also collect back into oceans, into rivers, or even on the sidewalk. And now that it's back down on the earth, the sun's going to heat it back up again, and it's going to start the whole cycle over and over again. So let's review what happened. We started with our water in a lake. As the sun heats up the water in our lake, it rises up as water vapor and goes into the sky, and we call this evaporation. Now, once it's up in the sky, the water vapor is turning back into water, or a liquid. And as it turns back into water, it's forming clouds. When water forms clouds, we call this condensation. And lastly, when our cloud is filled up with so many water droplets, and now it's too heavy to hold them in a cloud anymore, it's going to fall down to the earth, like rain or snow or hail, and we call this precipitation. Once our precipitation is collected back onto the ground, we're going to start the whole cycle over again. When it gets heated up by the sun, it goes back up into the cloud for evaporation, then becomes condensation, then we'll have precipitation, and we'll start back over again. This will continue on and on, over and over forever, which is why we call it the water cycle. We call it the water cycle because the word cycle means like a circle, going on and on forever. There's never any end. It will just continue and continue. Let's practice matching our 3 vocabulary words to their definition. We have evaporation, precipitation, and condensation. Our first definition says, water is warmed by the sun turns into a gas, and rises into the sky. Let's look at our picture. It's warmed by the sun, turns into a gas, and rises. Well, the sun has rays that are coming down to the lake. It starts to rise because it's turning into a gas. Well, this process would be evaporation. That's our first step of our water cycle. So our first definition goes with evaporation. Next, water vapor cools, turns into a liquid, and forms droplets and clouds. Well, my water vapor cools because it's going up higher in the sky. When it forms those little droplets, it's making clouds or condensation. So our second definition goes with condensation. In our last definition, water falls to the ground as rain, snow, hail, or sleet. Well, in our picture, after all of these water droplets form clouds and it gets heavier and heavier, when that falls back down to the ground as rain, snow, sleet, or hail, this would be called precipitation. So our last definition goes with precipitation. Now, if we look back at our picture, we know after precipitation happens, the water's collected back on the ground again, and we start the whole cycle back over with evaporation. So remember, the word cycle means like a circle. So our water cycle is a circle that's happening with our water over and over again, from evaporation to condensation to precipitation, then back to evaporation, over and over again. So that's it for our water cycle video this week. I'll see you back here next week for our next lesson.